Subscribe to English Hub to achieve fluent English.
Are you tired of reading and listening to English, only to forget most of it shortly after? Do you feel like you're constantly struggling to comprehend and retain new vocabulary and grammar? Well, today I have a solution that will transform the way you learn and use English. Imagine being able to fully understand any English text or audio, and then easily recall and apply that knowledge in your own speaking and writing. Sound too good to be true? I'm here to tell you that it's absolutely possible, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. In this session, I'll share a step-by-step process that will teach you how to master the art of understanding and remembering everything in English. No more guessing the meaning of unfamiliar words or feeling lost when listening to native speakers. By the end of this lesson, you'll have a reliable system for cementing your English knowledge for the long term. So, get ready to take your English skills to the next level. Whether you're a beginner or an advanced learner, the techniques I'm about to share will revolutionize the way you approach this language. Are you excited? Then let's get started. You might be reading a lot of things, listening to a lot of material in English, but how to understand it? If you're listening to something that is at your level, at the level of your comfort, that means you're not interacting with new words, which means you are not improving the level of your English. In order to do that, you have to read difficult articles, stories, novels, or whatever you are taking up to read or to listen to. You have to take something where you are getting some challenging words, phrases, something that you're not familiar with so that you can improve your English. But constantly looking at the dictionary is a very big task. So how do you understand everything naturally in English and then also remember it so that you can use it later on? I am going to tell you everything in this video. Are you all ready for it? I'm Professor Joseph, your certified English language tutor, certified by the University of Cambridge, the UK. And before beginning, please subscribe to the channel so that you can get all the lessons that I post for you on this channel. Please like the video and share it with your friends too. Now, coming back to today's video, how to understand everything and remember it. How to understand everything in English. Now, understanding means you are consuming some kind of English language. Consuming, that means input. There is English input. You are either reading or listening to English, or you might be watching some content in English. Again, if you're switching on the subtitles, that means you're engaging two different senses. You are reading the subtitles and listening to the content at the same time. But at the core of everything, you are engaged in two tasks, two skills of the English language. That's reading and listening. That is how you consume content in English and improve your English level with your speaking fluency. That is the most natural way of improving English. I've discussed it a lot with you. You know that now. When you are consuming the content, how do you understand and remember it forever? because you might read it, you might know the meaning, and then you forget it. You're not able to use it afterward, whenever you're speaking or writing something. And what is the purpose of learning English? What is the purpose of listening to and reading so much content in English? So that you can improve while speaking English in a real-life situation or while writing something that you're required to write. That means to be able to produce the language, you're consuming it. But the problem is, a lot of times, you're not able to understand half of the things, and whatever you're able to understand, you are not able to use it because you forget it. I'm going to tell you how to do that. Understand each and everything that you are reading or listening to, and then remember it so that you can use it. Using it means speaking it. It is very important. Let's begin with the complete plan that I have for you. Complete plan, let's begin. Okay? When we talk about understanding something, let's take the example of reading first, and then I'll come to listening too, because both of these things are important. Now, when I'm talking about reading something, because that's important, you have to read something in English in order to consume language, in order to understand language. What you're supposed to do is read and listen, right? So, whenever you're reading a language or listening to it, you have to pay attention to the context. I always tell you that a language is used in context. Context is very important. Now, context is something that is important for any language in this world. That is the language in usage. How the language is used is context. Everything that is surrounded by the usage of a particular word or phrase is context. It can be the situation you're using it. It can be how you're forming a sentence with it. What kind of meaning you're using, because a word can differ in meaning. That is the context. You have to understand the context. And if you understand the context, that is the most natural way to acquire a language. And when you acquire the language naturally, you are going to use it, because now you are not trying to remember things. You're not trying to cram up things. You're not doing rote learning. You're not trying to speak sentences after reading them and then not able to understand what is going on. You're not doing this. What you're doing is you're trying to understand the language in the most natural way possible. Just like a child would if he or she is learning his or her native language. You are replicating that kind of situation for yourself, and this is the best possible situation. Now, what you are supposed to do, how to understand the context, how to understand it. For this, there is a very simple thing. There are some steps that I'm going to tell you now. If you take up those steps, you'll be able to understand the context, understand everything, and also remember it so that you can use it later on. Let's begin with it. Step number 1. Step number 1 is to look for some context clues. You have to look for some context clues. Now, what are context clues? Context clues are basically all the things that surround a particular word. For example, the sentence that you are using, the sentence before that particular sentence, or the sentence after that particular sentence. Now, if you're watching something in English, let's come to listening and watching. If you're watching something in English, understanding context becomes very easy because everything is visualized for you. When you're reading, you have to use your imagination. When you're listening, you have to use your imagination. But when you are watching something, you have the people acting out things for you. You can see the setting. You can see the people. You can see the context. Context is visualized, but that is half of the context. Half of the context is in the way that particular word is used in a sentence, because you get half of the context visualized. It's very easy for you to understand the context at times. When you're reading something, it's very important for you to understand the context through the context clues rather than directly jumping to a dictionary. When you directly jump to a dictionary, what happens is your brain gets instant gratification. What is instant gratification? You must have heard about this word. That is when you do something that is easy for you, that is pleasing for your mind, and then the effect remains for just a temporary period of time. That is instant gratification. What happens is you get a confidence. Okay? Okay? This is the word. This is the meaning. I've looked at the word's meaning. Now, I'll be able to read everything comfortably, or maybe listen to that particular podcast comfortably. This is not the case. At that very moment, you might understand the meaning of the word, but after that, you will forget it. You will not be able to remember it. The biggest problem everyone faces is that we are not able to remember anything that we learn in English after some time. We forget. The words are not coming to our mind. We have learned so many words. When we read them, we are able to recognize the words that we have learned, but using them is a big problem. And this is why the problem occurs, because you're trying to instantly look up the meaning without any effort from your side. Your brain gets the meaning of the word in an isolated manner. That means the word is isolated. It's separate from the complete sentence. You look at the meaning separately, not within the context. And this is creating a huge problem for you. So you have to look at the meaning of the word in context rather than separating the meaning from the context. Do not do that. Do not isolate the word, isolate the phrase, keep everything within the context. And for that, look for some context clues. Now, how to do it? How are you going to look for those context clues? It's very important. Let me give you an example through this short paragraph. As you can see on the screen, she was feeling euphoric on the prospect of getting selected for the school's literary club. She was feeling euphoric. Now, this is a new word, euphoric. On the prospect again, a new word, prospect of getting selected for the school's literary club. She was feeling euphoric. There is a particular word before euphoric that is feeling. Now, through this, we know it's an emotion. Euphoric is an emotion, right? This is a feeling she is experiencing some kind of emotion. Why is she experiencing it? Ahead in the line, let's read it. On the prospect of getting selected for the school's literary club. Now, she's getting selected somewhere in a club. That's something prestigious. So that means the feeling is positive. It's happiness. It's excitement. If you are getting selected somewhere, you'll feel that happy, over the moon, on top of the world, in seventh heaven, won't you? You will. You definitely will. And that is the same feeling for her. Her euphoric is that happy feeling, that over-the-moon feeling for her. Now, the next word, prospect. But we are not able to find any kind of related meaning. Prospect of getting selected. Okay, so is she selected right now, or she's not selected right now? That's a big question. Let's read the next line to understand. Now the next line will serve as a context clue here. She still has to go through the final stage of screening. She still has to go through the final stage of screening. Now, screening is another word. She has to go through the final stage. That means prospect. The meaning of prospect is she is not yet selected, but she has a lot of chance and possibility of getting selected. So, prospect means something that can happen in a very positive manner, a possibility of something, a chance of something that is going to happen. So, prospect of getting selected something where the possibility is quite high. So, that is prospect right now. Screening. Screening can be an audition. We are able to understand from this because she's getting selected somewhere. That means the last stage of screening. Screening means a form of audition, or maybe some form of exam, or kind of something that she has to give, a test that she has to give. Screening, where people are going to get selected and some people will not get the opportunity to do it further, right? So, selecting process. Now, through this, you know how to understand any word through context clues. We have discovered the meaning of 3 words through what? Through context clues. 3 new words through just the context, what surrounds the word, the sentence, the words, the meaning, what can be the meaning. Now, what we are doing here is we are kind of guessing the meaning, but we are able to understand the core meaning of everything. We are able to understand the message here. If you want to really look at the meaning, that's also important to know how accurate you are in understanding the word, in understanding the context. For that, we have further steps now. These further steps are going to solidify everything and make you remember. This was the stage of understanding, how to understand anything and everything in English. So if you look at the context clues, you will be able to understand anything in English, anything that you're reading, anything that you're listening to. The same steps have to be followed while you're listening to something. Listen to it once again, repeatedly. Now, the next step is to summarize what you have understood. Summarize what you have understood. When you summarize, you are actually putting everything in your own words. You are creating a representation of the context in your brain. When you create a representation of the context in your brain, it becomes easier for you to remember. The more you create your own representations, the more it becomes easy for you to remember. This is how our brain works. Our brain loves to create its own representations, its own mental models, and when you create those mental models, you are able to remember things for a longer period of time. So the next step is to summarize what you have understood. You can do it either by writing it down or by speaking it out loud to yourself. When you speak it out loud to yourself, you are actually hearing the words. You are hearing the sentences. You are hearing the representation that you have created in your brain. And when you hear it, it becomes even more concrete in your brain. So, summarize what you have understood. The next step is to ask questions about what you have read or listened to. Ask questions about what you have read or listened to. When you ask questions, you are actually engaging with the content. You are interacting with the content. You are not just passively consuming it. And when you interact with the content, it becomes easier for you to remember it. The more you interact, the more you engage, the more you ask questions, the more it becomes easy for you to remember. Now, the questions can be of different types. They can be simple factual questions. They can be questions that require you to analyze. They can be questions that require you to synthesize. They can be questions that require you to evaluate. Different types of questions will help you engage with the content in different ways, and that will help you remember it better. The next step is to connect what you have read or listened to with your own experiences, your own knowledge, your own understanding. Connect what you have read or listened to with your own experiences, your own knowledge, your own understanding. When you make those connections, it becomes easier for you to remember, because now the content is not just something that is isolated, it's something that is connected to your own life, your own experiences, your own knowledge. And when you make those connections, it becomes easier for you to remember. The next step is to review what you have understood. Review what you have understood. After you have gone through all the steps, after you have summarized, after you have asked questions, after you have connected it with your own experiences, review what you have understood. Review it, either by writing it down or by speaking it out loud to yourself. When you review it, you are actually reinforcing the representations that you have created in your brain, and that will help you remember it for a longer period of time. Now, these steps that I have shared with you, they are not just for reading, they are also for listening. When you are listening to something in English, you can follow the same steps. Look for context clues. Summarize what you have understood. Ask questions. Connect it with your own experiences, and then review what you have understood. The more you practice these steps, the more it becomes easy for you to understand and remember everything in English. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take some time. It's going to take practice, but if you follow these steps consistently, you will be able to understand and remember everything in English, and that will help you improve your English proficiency. Now let's talk about the importance of understanding and remembering everything in English. Why is it important? It's important because if you don't understand and remember what you are reading or listening to, you are not going to be able to use it. And the whole purpose of learning English is to be able to use it, right? Whether it's speaking, whether it's writing, whether it's communicating in real-life situations, you need to be able to use the language that you are learning. And if you're not able to understand and remember what you are reading or listening to, you're not going to be able to use it. You're going to be stuck. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to feel like you're not making any progress. But if you are able to understand and remember everything, then you can use it, you can apply it, you can implement it in your real-life situations, and that's when you're going to see the progress. That's when you're going to see the improvement in your English proficiency. So, it's extremely important to understand and remember everything in English, and the steps that I have shared with you, they are going to help you achieve that. They are going to help you understand and remember everything in English, and that's going to help you improve your English proficiency. Now let's talk about some specific benefits of understanding and remembering everything in English. The first benefit is it's going to improve your vocabulary. When you understand and remember the words that you are reading or listening to, you are adding them to your vocabulary. And the more words you have in your vocabulary, the better you are going to be able to communicate, the better you are going to be able to express yourself, the better you are going to be able to understand others. The second benefit is it's going to improve your grammar. When you understand the context in which the words are being used, you are also understanding the grammar, you are understanding the sentence structures, you are understanding the way the language is being used. And when you understand the grammar, it becomes easier for you to use it correctly in your own communication. The third benefit is it's going to improve your reading and listening comprehension. When you are able to understand and remember everything that you are reading or listening to, your reading and listening comprehension is going to improve. You are going to be able to understand the main ideas. You are going to be able to understand the details. You are going to be able to understand the overall message of the text or the audio that you are consuming. The fourth benefit is it's going to improve your fluency. When you are able to understand and remember everything that you are reading or listening to, you are going to be able to use that language more fluently in your own communication. You are not going to be stuck. You are not going to be hesitant. You are not going to be searching for words. You are going to be able to communicate more fluently. The fifth benefit is that it's going to improve your confidence. When you are able to understand and remember everything in English, you are going to feel more confident in your ability to use the language. You are not going to be second-guessing yourself. You are not going to be afraid to speak up or participate in conversations. Your confidence in your English abilities is going to skyrocket. The sixth benefit is that it's going to help you communicate more effectively. When you understand and remember the language you're consuming, you can apply that knowledge to your own communication, whether it's speaking or writing. You'll be able to express yourself more clearly, convey your ideas more persuasively, and communicate with greater nuance and sophistication. The seventh benefit is that it's going to make you a more well-rounded English learner. When you can understand and remember everything, you're not just passively absorbing information. You're actively engaging with the language, developing a deeper, more holistic understanding of how it works. This well-rounded approach will serve you well as you continue to advance your English skills. The eighth benefit is that it's going to save you time and effort in the long run. If you can understand and remember what you're reading and listening to, you won't have to constantly refer back to dictionaries, notes, or other resources. You'll be able to build upon your knowledge more efficiently, accelerating your progress in English. The ninth benefit is that it's going to make you a more independent learner. When you can understand and remember everything, you won't be as reliant on teachers, tutors, or other external resources. You'll be able to take charge of your own learning, exploring content and materials that interest you, and tailoring your studies to your unique needs and goals. The 10th and final benefit is that it's going to enhance your overall language learning experience. When you can understand and remember everything, learning English will become more rewarding, enjoyable, and fulfilling. You'll be able to fully immerse yourself in the language, appreciate its nuances, and derive a greater sense of accomplishment from your progress. In summary, the ability to understand and remember everything you encounter in English has a wide range of benefits, from improving your vocabulary and grammar to boosting your confidence and communication skills. By mastering the techniques I've shared, you'll be well on your way to becoming a more proficient, independent, and confident English learner. Now, let's dive a bit deeper into some specific strategies and techniques you can use to further enhance your ability to understand and remember everything in English. One key strategy is to practice active listening and reading. When you're listening to or reading English content, don't just passively consume it. Actively engage with the material by asking yourself questions, making predictions, and connecting the information to your prior knowledge. This active mental engagement will help cement the information in your memory. Another strategy is to create your own personalized study materials. As you're reading or listening, take notes, summarize key points, and create visual aids like mind maps or diagrams. The act of transforming the information into your own words and formats will deepen your understanding and make it easier to recall. You can also try the technique of spaced repetition. This involves revisiting and reviewing the content you've encountered at strategic intervals, rather than just cramming it all in one sitting. Spacing out your review sessions over time has been shown to significantly improve long-term retention. Additionally, consider incorporating multiple senses into your learning. For example, if you're reading a text, try simultaneously listening to an audio recording of the same material. The combination of visual and auditory input can enhance your understanding and memory. It's also important to vary the types of content you consume. Don't just stick to one genre or medium. Mix it up by reading a range of materials, listening to different podcasts and audiobooks, and watching various types of videos. Exposing yourself to diverse content will expand your language skills and deepen your overall comprehension. Finally, don't be afraid to seek out more challenging materials. While it may be tempting to stick to content that's within your comfort zone, pushing yourself to engage with more advanced or unfamiliar texts and audio can accelerate your progress. Just be sure to apply the strategies we've discussed, such as using context clues and making connections to your existing knowledge. By incorporating these techniques into your English learning routine, you'll gradually develop the ability to understand and remember everything you encounter in the language. It may take time and consistent practice, but the benefits will be well worth the effort. Your vocabulary, grammar, fluency, and overall proficiency will all steadily improve, transforming you into a more confident and capable English communicator. Remember, the key is to stay engaged, active, and adaptable in your approach to learning. Don't be afraid to experiment with different strategies and find what works best for you. With dedication and a growth mindset, you can master the art of understanding and remembering everything in English.